where do I start with older children?
With your older children, you need to start with your goals first. You need to figure out what you're trying to do with your homeschool. So with your homeschool, are you trying to teach them certain subjects? Are you trying to teach them certain aptitudes? Are you trying to deal with character issues? So if you've had a child who's been in some kind of a traditional school system and now because of COVID you're pulling them out, you've got to ask exactly what am I hoping to accomplish with this child in this year? And there's no cookie cutter answer for what you're trying to do there. But, as somebody who's taught entry-level, freshman-level classes at universities, skill-wise, there's not a whole lot that you really need to be concerned about. There's some really basic things that if your child is accomplished in those, they're going to succeed in a college environment. They're going to succeed in an employment environment. Basically speaking, if they know how to read, if they know how to write, if they know how to express their ideas clearly, and if they know critical thinking, and one major segment of critical thinking is math. If they know those things and they've got some basic word processing skills, they're going to be set up for whatever happens to them after that. So realistically, if you've got those things under control, the next question is say, all right, what do I do with the rest of the day? And from there, you've got to set goals. You can, with older children, you can really interact with them. Say, hey, what would you like to learn this year? Do you have some talent that looks like it could be a profitable talent for you that would be worth developing for you, either economically or just character or mentally? And then start nurturing those kinds of things because you have freedom of not being constrained to setting things to whatever the common denominator is. You can do whatever's most profitable for that child.
And kind of related to that is, and I just want to say this because especially for any parents that are thinking about, like you just said, where their high schooler comes back and they don't do anything, or that they have that year and then they expect to send them back into public school. As a homeschool leader, we had people who were a grandparent got very sick, and what they did was they had to spend a year as a family just caring for that grandparent, and they didn't do any academics. And they went and did the achievement test a year later, and they advanced the same as if they had done the academics. So we put way too much emphasis thinking if we just teach these things that they'll have success. There's a lot of other things that actually breed success beyond the academics.
My teenager is not interested in being homeschooled and wants to be taught by a real teacher. What advice can you give?
I don't really believe your teenager. I don't know if somebody wrote this question or if we made this question up. I don't really believe that teenager who's saying they want to be taught by a real teacher. I mean, if they're saying that, then maybe there's a problem between the parent and the child, and that's the root thing that needs to be dealt with. My guess is that the child is more concerned about, hey, what about all my friends? What about all those social opportunities that if I'm going to be one of those weird homeschoolers? If that's the problem, then there's ways to deal with that kind of a problem. And there are, being homeschooled doesn't mean that you just become this tight little nuclear family that doesn't ever interact with the outside world. You need to find ways to interact with the outside world. I know things are difficult right now with COVID, but there are social outlets that you can still plug your child into and still get them environments where it's profitable for them to be interacting with other people. And being homeschoolers, they don't have to all be the same age. But if, my guess is that's more likely the root of a child's objection is not so much, I really miss my teachers. It's, I really miss my friends. And so you can figure out how you want to deal with that. If your child has good friends that are good to have around, then find opportunities to do things with those children and then deal with the other questions.
I mean, very related to that is a lot of times it's not even that I want to be with their friends. I want freedom, which really means they don't want the constraint that would be at home, because children can get away with a lot of stuff at schools. And all of a sudden they're at home, and all of a sudden they can't get away with things that you don't want them to be doing anyway. So don't be surprised when they complain, because the reality is you're constraining them, and they don't want to be constrained. And so I agree with you completely. It can be about the friendship, but it also can be about constraint.
I mean, I mentioned that, I was in private school a fairly long way. I was pulled out near the end of my time period. I had a sister who was 7 years younger than me. And so when she was pulled out, I had always wanted to be homeschooled for several years, but she really, by the time when she was pulled out, she had a very negative attitude towards it. And she said exactly what's being said here. Is she'd look at my mom and she would say, I was taught to do it this way. My teacher taught me to do it this way. A real teacher taught me the way to do this. And it was purely about, like Dan said, it was about freedom. It was an attitude of disrespect towards my mother. And, and so it is one of those things where, just like at your work, when someone at your work complains about something, sometimes the thing they say isn't the driving force. And it's just like it is with yourself. And so I think there's a part of it where it's frequently much more of a relationship issue, and you need to deal with the child and have them, they need to respect you. I mean, the truth is and some of it is you need to talk to them about their life and where things are and explain things to them and constrain them but deal with the child and deal with their attitude, because it can be a real thing.
And just one quick thing to add on here is, homeschoolers are taught by real teachers, quote unquote, in the sense that you're using books and resources by people with, academic credentials. So it is there, if that's what people are concerned about.
Right, you are a real teacher.
And another thing to remember is the NEA has objectives, and one of their objectives is to convince everybody that you have to be credentialed by them because they're trying to promote their union. And this is real, and it really has real impacts upon, if they are sincerely saying that, they're saying that because a teacher taught them to say that. And part of what you need to say is, no, I also know these subjects. I also, especially, your child goes, oh, I need a real teacher. And you go, well, actually, I know that subject a lot better than your teacher in school does. But they want to create this fake professionalism that doesn't really exist in a lot of ways. And it's to create something because they're trying to further their union. So you shouldn't ignore the reality of where the public school teachers are and where the public school teacher union is. But, another thing that I wanted to mention is also for the parents that a lot of times when the child says that, there is an underlying issue between the parent and the child relationally. And so if that is your child saying that to you, you should be asking yourself the question, what do I need to do to fix my relationship with my child? And some of that fix can be they're deep in sin that you don't know about, and you need to constrain it before they destroy themselves. Or it can be that you've treated them wrongly and you need to figure out how to change you. But in the end, these are real things, and when you find that out, understand you're going to know your child a lot longer after they're an adult outside of your home than while they're in your home. And take it as a blessing that you have this opportunity where it's showing up, hey, I've got this relationship problem with my children that you can solve now, because every year that it goes on, it's harder to solve.